Our reading this week from the Gospel of Mark depicts two parallel miracles by Jesus, one of a 12-year-old girl who was dying, and the other of a woman who had been hemorrhaging for 12 years. From the Gospel, we learn that the bleeding woman was suffering immensely, with seemingly no hope for a cure. I've often wondered, who is this unnamed woman in Mark? How has this pain affected her faith? What was she feeling when she approached Jesus in a crowd? What do we have in common with her story of fear, suffering, and healing? According to Jewish purity laws at the time, a person who is bleeding is labeled ritually unclean. Therefore, anyone who touched the bleeding woman was also deemed unclean. For 12 excruciating years, the woman with the uterine hemorrhage suffered alone, bearing the weight of not only physical pain, but also the emotional and spiritual pain that comes with being excluded from community. The gospel tells us that she had suffered greatly at the hands of many doctors and had spent all that she had. Yet she was not helped, but only grew worse. Many of us know women in our lives who suffer from uterine illnesses like hemorrhages, often in silence. What's worse is that often these illnesses go undiagnosed and mistreated, and women are left suffering while desperately searching for answers. It is so easy to feel hopeless amidst chronic pain and to wonder if God is even listening to our cries. However, we can all find inspiration and hope in the faith of the bleeding woman and the risk she took in touching the cloak of Jesus. Her inner wisdom told her that if she merely touched his clothes, that she would be healed. And so she boldly approached Jesus in a crowd, propelled by the belief that she was made for more than suffering. Instead of rebuking the woman for touching him, Jesus saw this woman who knelt before him with fear and trembling and believed her experience of pain. Imagine the consolation and great relief the woman must have felt when Jesus compassionately looked into her eyes and said, "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace." This week's first reading from the Book of Wisdom reminds us that God does not rejoice in the destruction of the living, for God fashioned all things that they might have being. We may not know why we suffer, but this wisdom passage reminds us that God wishes us to have life and to have it abundantly. While not all those who suffer will experience a physical cure like the unnamed woman in Mark, her story offers us an important lesson. God sees our suffering and is right by our side, guiding us toward hope and the healing power of love.